Hey there! Today I'm going to build a quick, easy, and versatile project, and I'm going to show you how you can give it 3 different looks in 3 different ways, but we're going to finish it 3 different ways. And before we get started, a quick shout out to Mendocino Redwood for sponsoring this project. I am using these Redwood fence pickets to make this project. I absolutely love building with Redwood. It's super lightweight and super durable for outdoor projects, and if you've been around this channel, you've seen me build a whole bunch of furniture with it. So let's get started with this one. Now, one of the issues with these fence picket boards is that these boards can be really rough. So we obviously need to sand them, and normally I make my cuts before I sand the boards, so I'm not spending my time and energy sanding parts of the board that will never be used. But in this case, we do need some really tiny cuts, so it's a lot easier to just sand longer pieces of board and then make those cuts. I sanded down the boards starting at 80 grit sandpaper all the way down to 220 grit. I have a video where I go into all of the details on how to use a random orbital sander and to step through the grits to get the best possible results. So be sure to take a look at that, and I will be adding a link to that in the description below. Sanding can be very time consuming, and I was going to be building multiple vases and multiple planters. So after a couple of boards, I switched over to a planer to make things faster and efficient. Now it's time to make the cuts. I do have the full cut list as well as the step-by-step plans to make all of these planters, so be sure to check that out in the description below. Now there are multiple cuts that are the same size, and the best way to do this is to set up a stop block so you can make those repeatable cuts really quickly. And then I gave all of the pieces a quick run through with my random orbital sander at 220 grit to remove any imperfections that I may have missed. Okay, now it's time to assemble. We start with the bottom piece and attach the side using wood glue. It's important to use outdoor wood glue in this application. I went ahead and pre-drilled some holes, and I am using these trim head wood screws to attach all of the boards together. The great thing about trim head screws is that they give you the hold of a screw, but with a really tiny head. Once one side was attached, I turned it around and added the other side as well. Now it's time for side number 3, which I attached using trim head screws. And then side number 4. And that is our wooden vase. It was so easy to build. But if you want, you could also build this using brad nails, which work just as well. But I prefer the trim head screws instead of the brad nails because those screws pull the boards in together nice and tight while the wood glue dries. I built 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5 planters or vases. And now it's time for the final stain, paint, and finish. But before that, I gave everything a quick sanding with 220 grit to make sure all of the glue residue has been removed. Remember, we talked about finishing these 3 different ways. So the first one is just simple stain, and I am using a stain in the color Redwood because I absolutely love how it enhances the color of the redwood itself, and it just makes it pop. I have used this on multiple redwood projects in the past as well. Once it was stained, I filled all of the screw holes with a stainable wood filler. Now for the second look, I decided to go with some paint. So I used some painter's tape and taped off a geometrical pattern and applied a couple coats of primer, followed by a light sanding, and then a couple coats of paint. And here is the painted pattern. I did decide to leave the rest of the wood in its natural tone. For the third one, I am using this Burr, which basically loads into a rotary tool. This promises to be super dusty, so I set up outside, got a dust mask, and got to work.
I started with a little bit of a uniform design and then went on to stagger it and make it more random. It does take a little bit of practice to get the pressure and angle just right. I did mess up a few of those, but that's okay. In the grand scheme of things, it worked out exactly like I had envisioned. I wiped off all the dust and got ready for the final finish. I am using spar urethane to make sure it is protected from all the moisture and water. And here they are. To use these as vases, you can add a glass vase with water inside and add flowers into it.
And there you have it. Super easy to build, super versatile. You can use them as decor around the house, as a planter, or as centerpieces. And because I couldn't help myself, I also went ahead and built a little planter that is perfect for succulents. And I also built a larger version to plant some herbs in. Obviously, if you're going to be planting in these planters, you want to drill some drainage holes and add some landscape fabric. Just staple it around the sides and you're good to go. I have the detailed dimensions, cut list, and exactly how to put each of these 3 sizes of planters or vases together. So be sure to grab that. I will add a link to that in the description below. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I love reading each one of them. And if you want a larger planter, be sure to check out this tiered planter that works in any space. And if you want to take it one more level up, be sure to check out the self-watering planter. I think you will absolutely enjoy it. It's perfect for people like me who don't really have a green thumb. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time with more fun projects.